It's the Washington version of I'm Rubber and You're Glue. Joining us, MS Now contributor and co-founder of Punchbowl News, Jake Sherman, co-founder of the Lincoln Project and former GOP strategist, Rick Wilson, and Hofstra University law professor, James Sample. Jake, what's the deal with just declaring that Democrats cheat?
Well, let me actually just correct Mike Johnson here for a second, and I guess in turn correct you. The House has not passed the Save America Act. The Save America Act that President Trump wants is a bill that includes very strict restrictions on mail-in balloting. That is not passable on the House floor. The White House understands that, at least some in the White House do. The House Republican leadership understands that. And it's not going to end up in reconciliation in any way, I don't know about any way, shape, or form. It's not going to end up in reconciliation in the form Donald Trump wants it in. It's just, that is also a fact. Now, they've been saying for years that there's all this cheating without any evidence. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I don't know. They want to seem like anything they win is completely legit. Anything Democrats win is completely nonsense. I don't know how to parse that out or make any more sense of it than it is. But this is a centerpiece of their majority, and it's going to be something that defines the last couple of months of this Congress, this fight over voting restrictions and over the Save America Act.
It's so cynical, Jake. What are you expecting come November if Republicans do lose?
Well, I expect there's two different answers to that question. There's the practical answer, which, of course, they're going to say there's lots of irregularities, et cetera, et cetera. We need to look into them by the time I don't know, what the president's going to do about, troops to the ballot. I have no idea. I don't have a crystal ball. I do think they'll say there's irregularities. Many of these races are expected to be close, but some of them they're going to lose resoundingly. That's number one. Number two, I think perhaps as interesting is the political question, Katie, which is the president's going to say, if only you blew up the filibuster and did what I told you to do, then we would have had a more functional majority, and we probably would have won the House of Representatives or kept the House of Representatives. Of course, there's no evidence that would be true either, but the president has spent months hammering the House and Senate to pass this. They've not done so, and I think he's going to use that against them eventually.
What's happening in Michigan?
Well, in Michigan, you're seeing a combination of all three of the threads of what's going on in the Donald Trump strategy to seed the doubts about the election. In Michigan, they are going to have voting monitors, federal monitors, at 3 locations. Those locations are essentially in Democratic-leaning jurisdictions. And there's not really a reason for it. There's not a substantive reason. There is a chilling effect. There is a narrative. It's all part of, there's sort of a 3-pronged strategy here, right? The Save America Act is prong 1, and the deliverable on that vote is the talking point. It's not going to pass. To Jake's point, they've passed different versions of it. They haven't passed this version of it.
And Mike Johnson, or is it's Johnson, right, Jake, that says that it's not necessarily the mail-in balloting stuff that they're passing. They're focused more on the core points of that bill, where it's just making people show proof of citizenship to get registered, right?
Well, that's what he's saying. He said a lot, and that's not a criticism of him. He's trying to keep up. This is a treadmill, Katie, in which he's trying to basically keep up with Donald Trump, who's running at 12 miles per hour. Trump has said he wants the Save America Act, which includes a whole host of things. The SAVE Act, a previous version, included voter ID and citizenship check. That has passed the House of Representatives. He is right on that. Now, there's another angle to this, which is the House Republican leadership has discussed a reconciliation idea of a $4 billion fund that would incentivize states to conduct voter ID checks and citizenship checks. I don't know that will go anywhere. And we wrote yesterday, and I think our midday edition, that even if they did so today, and by the way, they might be able to get this in reconciliation, I'm not sure. But if they did so today, it's unlikely that states would be able to have this in place ahead of the November election. And by the way, there have been Democrats, including Chuck Schumer, who have said we're not opposed to voter ID. In a more traditional presidency, that would lead to someone saying, okay, like, let's get a half loaf. That sounds pretty good to me. That's not what the president did here. That's not what the Republican leadership in either chamber did here. They didn't take advantage of that moment. I don't know why. I think they should have to get some sort of win. And here we are.
James?
Well, first, if President Trump is running 12 miles an hour, that's a 5-minute mile. So I'm pretty confident that he is not running a 5-minute mile. But Jake's point is absolutely correct. And the thing that cannot be stated, we've discussed this before, but it honestly cannot be stated often enough. Voter ID is popular. Voter ID polls at 80%. This bill is not voter ID. This bill is proof of citizenship at the time of registration, meaning a passport or an original birth certificate. Let me be really clear. If you have a real ID, you can get through TSA. A real ID is not proof of citizenship under this bill. We are talking, when Jake says that it couldn't be accomplished by the time of the November election, that is the point. This would create chaos. That is the intention. The intention is to disenfranchise.
So that's what the larger point you're making, the chaos, the disenfranchisement, the voter suppression of it. I wonder, though, if it doesn't pass the Save America Act, which doesn't look like it's going to pass, he can send poll monitors to Michigan, yes. But, Rick, I wonder if it backfires and it does the opposite. Instead of suppressing the vote, it motivates more people to get out there earlier and stand in longer lines to prove to him that he does not have the ability to suppress the vote by bullying.
You know, Katie, I think everyone else has made the point that a lot of this is about the narrative for this fall, but a bigger narrative that overwhelms, I think, a lot of Trump's scare tactics here. We're seeing it in the primary results. We're seeing it in the off-year election results. We're seeing it in every survey. Democrats are motivated to come out and vote this year. They are done. They have had enough. A lot of people who were formerly in the Republican or independent conservative camp have drifted away from Trump. They've had enough. I think your point is very well taken, that the louder Trump screams about this, the more people scan it and believe it to be a sense of panic on his part because they know what's coming at them. And I think Democrats are starting to smell some blood in the water here, and that's a good thing for them. They should feel motivated. And all the things that Trump is trying to do with the Save America Act, it's already a dead letter in the Senate. The other things he'll try to do through TSA or DHS and ICE, to intimidate people at the polls, I think that is a huge chance to backfire on them because Americans have had enough of the bullying and enough of the craziness.
There was an interview on CNN with Peter Tickton, who Donald Trump calls his childhood friend. And he said that he is pushing the president to go even farther. He wants him to push an executive order to effectively seize federal control of the upcoming midterms by declaring a national emergency based on alleged foreign interference through electronic voting machines. Can he do that, James?
No. And we've seen this come up in a number of different threads. We've also seen this with the Bill Pulte nomination at DNI and the acting Bill Pulte at DNI. Let me be clear. There are emergency powers that are granted in statutes. The two primary statutes that grant the president emergency power, the National Emergencies Act and IEPA. The National Emergency Act does not mention elections as one of the powers that Congress has delegated to the president in the event of an emergency. IEPA is the statute that was at issue in the tariff case where it didn't mention tariffs or taxes, and the Supreme Court struck it down. You know what else it doesn't mention, Katie? Elections.
Yeah.
There's no way for him to claim an emergency legally, but that doesn't mean he can't outrun the courts.
Your exasperation reminds me a little bit of this John Cornyn quote that we have here. And Jake, I'll give this to you. He said, "I marvel at the keyboard warrior geniuses and grifters who are ignorant of Senate rules and precedents, who have miraculously become experts in its arcane rules, promising the moon and stars, and yet destining Republicans for failure is a very effective way to demoralize our base and elect more Democrats in the midterms." John Cornyn, God, nice to see you now that you're leaving Congress.
Yeah. I mean, this is the free agent syndrome that has taken over a lot of people on Capitol Hill who Donald Trump has crossed. Of course, Katie, I don't expect these people, Republican members, to be honest, when they need Donald Trump to win elections. But once they win elections, or in Cornyn's case, lose elections, they seem a little bit more free. Listen, Cornyn's not wrong here in many ways. I think that Cornyn is reflecting that there's a whole kind of class of people on X and on TV who say, well, it's so simple. The Senate should just do this. And it's like they don't understand the rules of reconciliation, what flies, what doesn't fly, what the parliamentarian's going to do, what the vote count reality in the Senate is. I mean, these are the same people who have said that the Republicans should blow up the filibuster here on Capitol Hill. We've seen this movie before. We've seen Democrats try. We've seen Republicans try. It doesn't have the votes. Now, you could argue that, Thune is being too cautious, and a lot of those people have, but Thune is, in my view, based on our reporting up here, accurately reflected the realities of the vote count, which is there is no appetite to do Save America. There is no appetite to blow up the filibuster. There is no appetite to get rid of the parliamentarians. So, I mean, X is a very different world, as we all know, than reality. And when you are up here talking to people instead of just chilling in your office somewhere, you realize that. And I don't mean to sound snide or condescending, but it's really easy to say, well, this person supports this. But if you talk to that person, you realize that they actually don't, and they don't want to be a part of it. So, X is easy. Life is hard.